The outcast and the shadow Jasmine Torres dragged her boots through the rust-colored mud, her shoulders hunched against the perpetual mist that clung to the forest canopy of Verdantis. The logging camp sprawled behind her like a wound in the landscape, all harsh lights, grinding machinery, and the acrid smell of processed timber. 3 weeks since her father moved them here for his promotion, and she already felt like she was suffocating. The other kids at the research station ignored her completely. They were all legacy families, second- and third-generation colonists who had their own tight circles and inside jokes. To them, she was just the logging supervisor's daughter, part of the machinery that chewed up their precious wilderness studies. Not that Jasmine wanted to be here either. She pressed deeper into the restricted zone, past the warning markers that separated the active logging sectors from the old-growth preservation areas. Nobody patrolled these sections after dark. Most people were too afraid of the bioluminescent predators that hunted at night, their bodies pulsing with eerie green light. But Jasmine had discovered that if you stayed still and quiet, they mostly left you alone. The forest felt more like home than the sterile dormitory ever would. Her wristcom buzzed, another message from her father about missed dinner. She silenced it without reading. Marcus Torres was always working, always distracted, always too busy managing quotas and extraction schedules to notice his daughter was drowning in loneliness. Her mother would have noticed. But her mother was back on Earth, had been for 4 years now, living a life that apparently didn't have room for a husband obsessed with his career, or a daughter who reminded her too much of broken promises. The only real comfort Jasmine had left was her tablet, loaded with her Aunt Carolina's adventure novels. Aunt Carolina had been an explorer herself before the accident, and her stories were filled with impossible journeys and unlikely friendships. Jasmine clutched the tablet now, its familiar weight grounding her as she picked her way between the massive trees. That's when she heard it. A sound that definitely wasn't natural. A low, pained hiss echoing from somewhere off the main path. Every survival instinct screamed at her to turn around, to get back to the compound before full dark. But curiosity had always been her weakness. Aunt Carolina would have investigated. So Jasmine followed the sound. She pushed through a curtain of hanging moss and stopped dead in her tracks. In a small clearing, half hidden by fallen timber and glowing fungi, lay something that shouldn't exist. At first, her mind couldn't process what she was seeing, too big for any documented wildlife, with 4 legs and 2 wing structures that were torn and bleeding some kind of silver fluid. Its body was covered in scales that shifted between deep purple and midnight blue, like oil on water. 3 narrow heads rose from a serpentine neck, and each head bore a set of intelligent amber eyes that fixed on her with unmistakable awareness. The creature tried to rise, then collapsed with another hissing sound that vibrated through Jasmine's chest. One wing was clearly broken, bent at an unnatural angle, and deep gashes across its flanks were leaking that strange silver blood. The bioluminescent fungi around it were dying, turning brown and withering wherever the blood touched. Jasmine's rational mind screamed that this was dangerous, that she should run and alert the research team. But something in those 6 amber eyes stopped her. Not aggression, not hunger, but something far more compelling. Recognition. The same look she saw in her own reflection. Desperate loneliness. "I won't hurt you," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the forest's night chorus. "I promise." The creature's heads tilted in unison, studying her. Then, impossibly, a voice formed inside her mind. Not words exactly, but concepts that her brain automatically translated into language. Small one sees Korvath. Small one does not flee or attack. Curious. Jasmine gasped and stumbled backward, her tablet clattering to the ground. You can talk? In my head? Thought speak. Siltherian way. Your kind usually cannot hear. You are different. The mental voice was strained, laced with pain. Korvath asks, "Why does small one wander where death-light predators hunt?" "The glowing things. They don't bother me if I stay quiet." Jasmine took a tentative step closer, her fear rapidly being replaced by wonder. "Your name is Korvath?" "I'm Jasmine. What are you? What happened to you?" The creature, Korvath, made a sound like wind through hollow reeds. Corvath is last Siltharian guardian of root song. Hunters came, machines came, cut deep into sacred network. Corvath tried to defend. Hunters had weapons. Corvath fell. The logging company. Jasmine breathed, the pieces clicking together. My father's crews. They hurt you? Not knowing hurt worse than physical pain, Corvath communicated, and Jasmine could feel the weight of sadness behind the thought. Your kind destroys without understanding what they destroy. The root song dies. When song dies, all Siltharians die. Jasmine crouched down, close enough now to see the silver blood crusting around the wounds. Her medical training was minimal, just basic first aid, but she couldn't just leave him here to suffer. I have supplies back at the compound. Bandages, antiseptic. I don't know if they'll work on you, but I can try. Will you let me help? For a long moment, Corvath's 6 eyes studied her. Then, Small One offers aid to Monster. Small One is brave or foolish. Jasmine. My name is Jasmine, not Small One. She managed a shaky smile. And maybe I'm both brave and foolish. But my Aunt Carolina always said the best adventures start with doing the right thing, even when it's scary. Jasmine. The name rolled through her mind like a gentle wave. Corvath accepts help. But Jasmine must understand. Helping Corvath means standing against Jasmine's own people. Rootsong connects all living things in this forest. Your machines sever the connections. Without Rootsong, forest dies. Siltharians die. Eventually, even humans suffer. Go away, Fletcher, Jasmine muttered. Actually, I came to help. He glanced down the corridor, then slipped inside. I think you might be onto something. Jasmine stared at him. What? The fungal readings you showed Dr. Voss. She mentioned them to my mom, who's on the research team. I've been studying the historical survey data, and there are gaps. Huge sections of the old growth were never properly scanned because the equipment kept malfunctioning. What if something there was interfering with our sensors? Hope sparked again in Jasmine's chest. You believe me? I believe something weird is happening in that forest, Owen corrected. Whether it's aliens or just really complex fungal intelligence, it deserves investigation. Plus, my mom says 3 of the lead researchers are pushing to expand logging into the old growth next week. If you're right about this network thing, that could be catastrophic. I need to get back to Corvath, Jasmine said urgently. He's injured. Without help. They've locked down your access codes, Owen interrupted, but not mine. I can get you out, but only for a few hours. And Torres? If this is real, we need proof. Real, undeniable proof, not just scanner readings. Jasmine thought of Corvath, alone in his clearing, growing weaker while humans debated his existence. She thought of the root song, that vast consciousness slowly dying as machines chewed through its connections. And she thought of Aunt Carolina's words. Sometimes the right thing requires impossible courage. I know how to get proof, she said quietly. But it's going to sound even crazier than everything else. Owen grinned. At this point, Torres, crazy is exactly what we need. 2 hours later, they were pushing through the mist toward Corvath's clearing, Jasmine's heart hammering with equal parts fear and determination. The Siltharian was noticeably weaker, his scales dull and his breathing shallow. Jasmine returns. Brings another small one. Corvath's mental voice was faint. This is Owen, he wants to help. Jasmine knelt beside the Siltharian. Corvath, I need you to show him what you showed me. The root song. Can you do that? Reaching into human mind requires much energy. Corvath is weak. I know. But it's our only chance. They won't believe words. They need to experience it themselves. Corvath's 6 amber eyes focused on Owen, who had gone very pale. Torres? What exactly? Then his words cut off as his eyes widened. Jasmine watched as Owen experienced what she had. The forest transformed into a vast, interconnected web of consciousness. His legs buckled, and he sat down hard, tears streaming down his face. It's beautiful, he whispered. It's alive. It's all alive and connected, and we've been butchering it like it's nothing. The mental connection broke, and Corvath slumped exhausted. But Owen was already pulling out his handheld recorder. This changes everything. We need to bring the whole research team out here. Tonight. Now. They won't come, Jasmine said bitterly. They think I'm having delusions. Then we make them come. Owen's eyes were fierce. My mom's hosting the quarterly review board tomorrow. Every department head will be there, including your dad. If we can get Corvath to the main research lab to the advanced scanning equipment. He can barely move, Jasmine protested. Corvath can move, the Siltherian communicated, his 3 heads rising with visible effort. If this is chance to save Rootsong, Corvath will find strength. But journey must be tomorrow, before Corvath fades too far. Jasmine looked at Owen, then back at Corvath. One final, desperate gambit. Bring an alien creature into the heart of the human compound and force them to listen. Okay, she said. Tomorrow. We'll show them something they can't deny. As they headed back through the pre-dawn darkness, Jasmine silently prayed to Aunt Carolina's memory that they weren't too late. Behind them, Corvath began to hum, a low, resonant sound that rippled through the fungal networks, a song of hope and desperation carried through the roots of a dying forest. The voice. No one believes Jasmine's hands shook as she rifled through the medical supply cabinet in the residential wing. It was past midnight, and the compound was quiet except for the distant hum of air processors. She stuffed bandages, antiseptic spray, and nutrient paste into her backpack, along with her personal bioscanner and 3 of Aunt Carolina's novels. If Corvath could share his stories, she could share hers. Getting back out was easier than she expected. Security had grown lax. Nobody imagined anyone would be stupid enough to wander the forest at night. 20 minutes later, she was pushing through the moss curtain into Corvath's clearing. The Siltherian hadn't moved, but his breathing seemed more labored. The bioluminescent fungi around him had spread their death pattern, brown and crumbling in a perfect circle where his blood had seeped into the ground. I'm back, Jasmine whispered, kneeling beside him. This is going to sting, but I need to clean these wounds. Jasmine kept promise. Corvath is grateful. She worked carefully, cleaning the gashes across his flanks with antiseptic. The silver blood fizzed strangely on contact, but the wounds began to look less angry. Corvath trembled but didn't pull away. As she wrapped bandages around his torso, an awkward process given his alien anatomy, she asked the question burning in her mind. Tell me about the Rootsong. What is it exactly? Corvath's 3 heads lifted slightly, and suddenly images flooded Jasmine's mind. She saw the forest as Corvath saw it, not individual trees and plants, but a massive interconnected web of fungal networks stretching beneath the soil like neural pathways in a brain. Every tree, every plant, every creature was a node in this living network, sharing nutrients, sharing warnings, sharing something that could only be described as collective consciousness. Rootsong is life itself, Corvath explained. Fungal threads connect all living things. Trees speak to trees, warn of drought, of disease, of danger, share food with weak ones. Siltherians evolved alongside Rootsong. We are caretakers, amplifiers, guardians. We hear the song and help it grow stronger. But the logging, Jasmine said, understanding dawning. Every tree we cut severs part of the network. Yes, your machines cut without knowing they murder a vast mind. Each section harvested is like cutting nerves from living body. Rootsong grows weaker. Silent patches spread. Without song, Siltherians cannot sustain life force. Already, Corvath feels strength fading. Jasmine finished bandaging and sat back, her mind reeling. How many Siltherians are left? Corvath is last. Others faded when first machines came. 12 cycles passed. Tried to communicate. Your kind saw only dangerous beasts. Hunted. Killed. Corvath hid. Survived. Waited. Hoped someday your kind would understand. 12 years. Corvath had been alone watching his species die for 12 years. Jasmine felt tears sting her eyes. I'll make them understand. My father, the research team, they're scientists. Once they know the truth, they'll stop the logging. Corvath has heard human promises before, the Siltharian replied, but his mental voice was gentle, not accusatory. Humans see profit, see resources. One voice, even truthful voice, may not be enough. Then I'll make them listen, Jasmine said stubbornly. She pulled out her tablet. But first, can I read to you? My Aunt Carolina wrote stories about first contact between species, about finding common ground. Maybe they'll help us figure out how to convince people. Over the next 3 hours, Jasmine read while Corvath's breathing steadied. She explained human concepts he didn't understand. Oceans, cities, families torn apart by ambition. In return, Corvath shared memories of his people, painting pictures in her mind of Siltharians gliding through the canopy, their scales shimmering as they sang with the forest, amplifying its voice into something transcendent. Dawn was breaking when Jasmine finally headed back. She'd barely slept, but her mind buzzed with purpose. She had evidence now. Bioscanner readings showing unprecedented neural activity in the fungal networks around Corvath. Proof that something extraordinary existed in these forests. Her father was waiting in their quarters, his face stormy. "Where have you been?" "I need to talk to you and Dr. Voss," Jasmine said, clutching her scanner. "It's important. Life and death important." Marcus Torres pinched the bridge of his nose. "Jasmine, you can't just disappear all night. The forest is dangerous." "There's a sentient being living in the old growth sector," she interrupted. "A Siltharian named Corvath. He's the last of his species, and the logging is killing him. The fungal networks aren't just ecology, Dad. They're a communication system, maybe even a form of collective consciousness. We're destroying something incredible." Her father's expression shifted from anger to concern. "Honey, the surveys were thorough. There's no intelligent life. The surveys were wrong." Jasmine thrust the scanner toward him. "Look at these readings. That's not normal fungal activity. That's organized, purposeful neural firing. And I've talked to him, Dad. In my head, he uses thought speak." Marcus took the scanner, studying the readings with a frown. For a moment, hope flared in Jasmine's chest. Then he set it down gently. "These readings are unusual, I'll grant you that. But voices in your head, Jasmine? Talking to alien creatures? Do you hear yourself? I know how it sounds. I'm calling Dr. Voss and Dr. Brennan." Her father's voice was firm but worried. "You've been under tremendous stress. The move, your isolation here, missing your mother. It's okay to struggle, but we need to address this." "I'm not struggling, I'm not imagining things." Jasmine's voice cracked with frustration. "Just come with me. Let me show you." "Absolutely not. You're confined to quarters until the doctors clear you." Marcus moved toward the door. "I'm sorry, Jasmine, but this is for your own good." The door sealed behind him with a hiss. Jasmine stood frozen, her scanner clutched uselessly in her hands. They thought she was losing her mind. Worse, they were going to send doctors, waste precious time, while Corvath grew weaker and the logging continued its relentless advance. Dr. Helena Voss arrived an hour later, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who specialized in xenobiology. She listened patiently as Jasmine explained everything, even examined the scanner readings with interest. But her conclusion was the same. "The readings are fascinating," Dr. Voss admitted. "Worth investigating. But Jasmine, there are no Siltharians in our records. No evidence of tool use, no ruins, no artifacts. And thought speak?" She smiled kindly. "The human brain is remarkably good at creating meaning from random stimuli, especially under stress." "It's not random," Jasmine protested. "He told me specific things about the fungal networks that I couldn't have known. He showed me memories of his people. All information potentially accessible through our research databases." Dr. Voss countered gently. "Your subconscious mind is quite creative, dear. Give the counseling a chance." After she left, Jasmine paced her small room like a caged animal. Through the window, she could see the logging crews heading out for their shift, fresh sections of old growth marked for harvest. How much time did Corvath have? Days? Hours. That evening, Owen Fletcher appeared at her door. He was 17, lanky and awkward, one of the legacy kids who usually pretended she didn't exist. "Hey Torres, heard you had a weird episode." The song that saves the quarterly review board met at noon in the main research lab, a sterile space filled with holographic displays and scanning equipment. Jasmine watched through the ventilation grate as her father, Dr. Voss, and 6 other department heads settled around the conference table. Owen was down there too, fidgeting nervously with his tablet. In the storage bay directly below, hidden behind supply crates, Korvath waited. Getting him into the compound had been a nightmare. 3 hours of slow, agonizing movement through maintenance tunnels, with the Siltherian barely conscious. His scales had faded to ash gray and the silver blood seeped through Jasmine's bandages. They were out of time. Owen's voice crackled through her earpiece. "They're reviewing the logging expansion proposal now. 5 minutes until they vote. You ready?" Jasmine's hands trembled as she entered the override codes Owen had provided. "As ready as I'll ever be. Korvath, can you hear me?" Korvath hears. Korvath is ready to sing one final time. "Not final," Jasmine whispered fiercely. "We're going to save you, I promise." She dropped through the grate into the corridor, then burst through the lab doors. Every head turned toward her. Her father's face went from shock to anger in an instant. "Jasmine, you're supposed to be—" "You need to listen," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "All of you. There's something in this forest more valuable than timber, more important than quotas, and if you approve that expansion, you'll destroy it forever." "Jasmine, we've discussed this," Dr. Voss said gently. "Your readings were interesting, but not readings. Reality." Jasmine moved to the main scanning console. "Owen, open the bay doors." "Wait, what?" Marcus started forward but froze as the storage bay doors slid open. Korvath emerged slowly, his 4 legs trembling, his torn wings dragging behind him. The 3 heads lifted, and 6 amber eyes swept across the assembled humans. Someone screamed. 2 scientists lunged for the emergency alarm. "Stop!" Jasmine shouted. "He's not dangerous. His name is Korvath, and he's the last living Siltherian. The logging operations are killing him and destroying a sentient network that connects this entire forest." "Security to the main lab," her father barked into his comm. "We have a hostile." "Korvath is not hostile." The mental voice resonated through every mind in the room simultaneously. Scientists gasped, clutching their heads. "Korvath is guardian. Korvath is last voice of root song. Korvath asks humans to listen." Dr. Voss staggered backward, her hand pressed to her temple. That's direct neural communication. That's impossible for non-sentient life." "He's been trying to tell you for 12 years, Jasmine said. "But you only saw a monster. You killed his entire species without ever knowing they were people." Security burst through the doors, 4 guards with shock weapons. Korvath's heads lowered in a defensive posture, but Jasmine threw herself between them. "If you shoot him, you'll never understand what you've lost." Her voice cracked. "Please, just give him 5 minutes. Let him show you the root song. Then if you still want to arrest me or put Korvath down, fine. But you owe it to yourselves to see the truth first." Marcus Torres looked at his daughter, really looked at her for the first time in months. He saw her conviction, her desperation, her courage. And perhaps he saw something of the passionate woman he'd once married, before ambition and distance had torn them apart. "Stand down," he ordered quietly. Then to Korvath, "You have 5 minutes. Korvath needs only 1. The Siltherian moved painfully toward the lab's main bioscanner, a massive device designed to map entire ecosystems. But Korvath cannot show root song alone. Too weak, needs amplification. "The scanner can interface with neural activity," Dr. Voss said slowly, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "If we recalibrate it for alien physiology." Her fingers flew across the controls. "Owen, help me route this through the holographic projectors." They worked frantically while Korvath positioned himself beneath the scanner array. Jasmine stood beside him, one hand resting on his scales, feeling his life force flickering like a dying flame. "Ready," Dr. Voss announced. "Korvath, when you're ready to transmit, the system will amplify and visualize whatever neural patterns you generate." "Jasmine," Korvath's thought voice was barely a whisper. "If this fails, if Korvath fades, know that these final days with you have been gift. You reminded Korvath what it means to be seen, to be heard, to have friend." "You're not fading," Jasmine said, tears streaming down her face. "You're going to sing and they're going to listen and everything is going to change." Korvath's three heads rose. His scales began to shimmer, cycling through colors. Deep purple to midnight blue to silver. And then he sang. It wasn't sound exactly. It was pure consciousness, transmitted through the root song and amplified by human technology. The holographic displays exploded with light and life. Suddenly, everyone in the lab could see what Jasmine and Owen had seen. The forest transformed into a vast neural network, stretching hundreds of kilometers in every direction. But it was so much more than visualization. They could feel it. The ancient trees sharing nutrients with saplings through fungal highways. The warning signals racing through the network when predators approached. The collective memory of seasons, of growth patterns, of ecological balance maintained over millennia. And throughout it all, Korvath's presence. A caretaker consciousness that helped guide and amplify the song, that gave the network purpose and direction. Then the view shifted, showing the logging operations from the forest's perspective. Each cut tree was a severed nerve ending, each cleared section a blank void of silence where the song once thrived. The network was dying, fragmenting into isolated islands that could no longer sustain themselves. Dr. Voss was weeping openly. Marcus Torres had fallen to his knees. Even the security guards stood transfixed, their weapons forgotten. The connection lasted 90 seconds. When it broke, Korvath collapsed completely, his breathing ragged and shallow. But the damage, or rather, the revelation, was done. "Dear God," Dr. Voss whispered, "we've been committing genocide without even knowing it." "The logging expansion can't proceed," one of the other department heads said, his voice shaking. "None of the logging can proceed. We need to halt all operations immediately and reassess everything." "Agreed," Marcus said hoarsely. He moved to Jasmine's side, looking down at the dying Soltharian. "Can we help him? Is there any way to repair what we've damaged?" Dr. Voss was already scanning Korvath with handheld devices. "His energy readings are critical. Without a functional root song network to draw from, he's essentially starving. We'd need to restore significant portions of the fungal connections, and that could take years." "Then we start now," Jasmine interrupted. "We stop all cutting, we plant, we help the network regrow, and we protect what's left." Even if humans stop today, Korvath's faint mental voice reached them. "Damage is too severe. Root song will take decades to heal fully. Korvath will not see that day." "No." Jasmine gripped his scales tighter. "There has to be something. Some way to sustain you until the network recovers." Owen spoke up suddenly. "What if we created an artificial network, used our technology to bridge the gaps in the fungal connections? It wouldn't be the same as the real thing, but it might provide enough energy to keep him alive while the forest heals." Dr. Voss's eyes widened. "A biosynthetic neural web, using our communications arrays as temporary nodes. It's theoretically possible. We'd need every available power source and it would take months to implement fully, but we start immediately," Marcus said with authority. "All resources, all personnel. And Jasmine," he looked at his daughter with something that might have been pride, "you'll work with the team as our liaison to Korvath. Nobody understands him better than you." Over the next 6 months, the compound transformed. Logging equipment was repurposed into planting machines. Communications arrays were reconfigured to create artificial nodes in the root song network. Scientists worked alongside Korvath, when he had strength, to understand the complex ecology they'd nearly destroyed. Jasmine spent every day coordinating between human technology and Soltharian wisdom. Owen became her constant partner, the two of them translating concepts between species. And slowly, painfully, The forest began to respond. Dead zones showed sparks of new growth. The root song's voice, silent for so long, began to whisper again through the fungal threads. Marcus Torres resigned as logging supervisor and took a position as head of the new ecological restoration department. He and Jasmine ate dinner together every night now, talking about their days, sharing stories. He even started reading Aunt Carolina's novels, trying to understand the imagination that had saved an entire species. One evening, 9 months after that fateful day in the lab, Jasmine sat in Corvath's clearing, no longer hidden but a protected sanctuary at the heart of a growing conservation zone. The Siltharian's scales had regained their shimmer, cycling through vibrant colors. His wounds had healed completely. Root song grows stronger each day, Corvath communicated, his mental voice clear and powerful. Humans learn to listen, to nurture rather than take. Corvath believes your Aunt Carolina would be proud of your story, Jasmine Torres. It's not just my story, Jasmine said, pulling out her tablet. It's our story, and I think it's time I wrote it down. Maybe other humans need to hear about the root song, about listening instead of destroying, about friendship across impossible differences. Then Corvath will help you write, the Siltharian replied. And perhaps this time, story will have happy ending. Jasmine smiled, her fingers poised over the tablet. Yeah, I think it will. In the forest around them, the root song pulsed with new life, a symphony of consciousness that now included not just trees and fungi and Siltharians, but humans too. All of them learning to sing together, all of them part of something far greater than themselves. The world had hunted Corvath as a beast, but one girl had listened to his story, and that had made all the difference. The end.